Okay, this chapter is about the FRM part 2, operational risk, and the heading says that observation on development and risk appetite framework and IT infrastructure. This topic discusses the concept of risk appetite framework. For the exam, understand the elements and benefits of RAF and be familiar with the best practices for an effective RAF. Also, be able to identify metrics that can be monitored as a part of effective RAF. Finally, understand the elements and benefit of robust data infrastructure as well as best practices related to data aggregation. Let's understand what is risk appetite framework. The concept of risk appetite framework and the identification of the elements of risk appetite framework is important. Benefits of a firm having well developed RAF will help them to uh, understand the risk that exist. The risk appetite framework is a strategic decision making tool that prevents the firm's core risk strategy. It sets in place a clear future oriented perspective of a firm's target risk profile in number of scenarios and map out strategy for achieving that risk profile. It also specifies which type of risk the firm will be willing to take and under what condition as well as under what type of risk the firm is unwilling to take. The RF should start with a risk appetite statement that is essentially a mission statement from a risk appetite perspective. This statement should cover some or all of the following elements: desired business mix and balance sheet composition, that is capital structure, trade-off between debt and equity, risk preferences, how much credit or market risk to take on a hedge, acceptable trade-off risk and reward, acceptable limit for volatility based on standard deviation, capital threshold, which is the regulatory and economic capital, tolerance for post stress losses, target credit rating, optimum liquidity ratio. The benefits of well developed RAF are it improves firm strategic planning and tactical decision making. It inherits flexibilities, allows firm to adapt market changes, especially if appropriate opportunities arise. The require adjustment to RF should be made. It assists firms in preparing the unexpected losses, requires business line strategy review, and maintains an open dialogue regarding the management of unexpected economical or market events in particular geographies or product. It focuses on the future and set expectation regarding the firm's consolidated risk profile after performing relevant stress test and scenario analysis. It helps the set up it helps to set up a plan for risk taking, loss mitigation and contingency measure. So we now move to developing an implementation of effective RAF. We need to describe the best practices for a firm's chief risk officer, chief executive officer and board of director in development and implementation of effective risk appetite framework. Now, chief risk officer best practices. Board member involved with risk issues should be able to contact the CRO and engage in frequent communication about ongoing key risk issues. The best practice could be to create a board risk committee that is directly involved in performance review and compensation decision regarding the CRO. The strong alliance between CRO and CFO, the budgetary consideration, is key to spreading the use of RAF throughout the organization. Especially a best practice would be for the CRO and CFO to report to the board every meeting by commenting on firm's risk profile in comparison to the RAF. The CRO discussions could be broad strategic in nature and the CFO discussion could discuss financial impact. CEO best practices. CEO should strongly support the RAF and refer or use it to support the challenging risk and strategic decisions. The willingness of the CEO to give the CRO the final word on many risk decisions is the best practice since it strengthens the importance of risk management function. Where any instance of non-compliance with RAF exists, best practice would be a CRO or CEO to advise board of member on corrective measures that will be undertaken. Then we have the board of director best practices. The board needs to spend a considerable amount of time conveying the firm's risk appetite statement through the firms to ensure properly implementation. In challenging management to operate the firm in a way that is congruent with the RAF. The board must focus on strategic and forward-looking issues rather than dwelling in the past action. A best practice would be for the board to state its expectation to management in advance so that management can establish proper strategy plan. When a board challenges management and require a throughout vetting of the RAF, the end product is more complete and relevant. The best practice is to have active involvement of the board and senior management in continually revising the RAF until everyone is satisfied. Additionally, another best practice is the development of concrete way of assessing the RAF and needs to be amended to reflect a challenging environment. With regard to technical knowledge of the members, there should be a sufficient balance in board composition to ensure all members have a reasonable, congruent understanding of the firm risk to avoid situation when there are marked differences between expert and non-expert. A best practice is to provide detailed technical training to board member on relevant topic. Additionally, requiring cross membership among the major committee helps ensure that functions that members with strong technical base. A training and cross membership practice should serve as a supplement to existing expertise. Board must be proactive in stating the nature and frequency of the information they need. As best practice, reporting the board should be throughout and broad in the scope but not oversimplified. Additionally, communication from management should indulge a business aspect and not focused on just technical aspect. Finally, as a best practice, the board should be willing to push back to management if they feel the information provided is not sufficient for their needs. Reputation risk needs to have a significant amount of board attention. As best practice, the board should set up a reputation risk committee to analyze marketplace changes and approve transaction on basis of geography or product line. Attempting qualitative measures of reputation risk should also be done by monitoring industry headline and reporting trends to board, as well as hiring external parties to conduct relevant surveys. So these were some of the best practices for boards, CEO and CRO. We now move to the heading that's using RAF to manage business line. Here we need to understand the role of RAF in managing the risk of individual business line with a firm. Generally speaking, the RAF help to ensure that each business line strategies are congruent with the firm's desired risk profile. The various business line managers each submit a medium-term business plan to senior management and or the board to determine if it's consistent with the RAF. Such determination are often made with stress test or scenario testing. Afterward, RAL will set the risk limit allocated to each business line based on desired risk profile. Additionally, the RAF considers the integrated nature of the business line within the framework. For example, RAF can help determine how much a given business line medium-term business plan has to be amended in order to allow another business line proposal to be approved. In other words, there may be some borrowing of risk appetite allotment from a business line in order to take advantage of the current opportunity in other business line. Familiarity with the RAF by business line manager would dramatically decrease the number of plans that fare well outside the acceptable bonds. A chief RAF assists the firm in preventing risk appetite drift when economic conditions change. Now we move to effective RAF metrics. Here we need to identify metrics which can be minimized as a part of effective RAF and describe the classes of metrics to be communicated to various firm manager within the firm. Examples of metrics that can be monitored as a part of RAF are as follows. Capital targets, that is economic capital, tangible common equity, total leverage or capital at risk measure. Liquidity ratio, terms and survival horizon, net interest income volatility and earning at risk calculation, value at risk limits, risk concentration by internal or external credit rating, expected loss ratios, the firm's own credit spread, accessing growth ceiling by business line or exposure type, performance of internal audit ratings, economic value added, post-stress targets for capital liquidity and earning. Now we look to the next part. It is important to ensure that the metrics used to monitor risk are appropriate to the users of the information. Therefore, risk metrics should be divided into classes depending on who is receiving the information within the firm. For example, directors should receive high-level metrics, less detailed to reflect the firm's key risk. CEO, CFO, CRO should receive more detailed metrics than directors. Business line leaders should receive very detailed metrics, especially in relation to their respective business line. Then we move to the risk data infrastructure. Now we have to understand the benefits of firm for having robust risk data infrastructure and describe key elements of effective IT risk management policy as a firm. Benefit of robust risk data infrastructure is the ability to aggregate timely and accurate data to report on credit market liquidity and operation risk. This in turn allows management to make proper decisions regarding the final firm strategy, risk appetite and risk management during period of constant and frequent changes. Another benefit is the ability to sufficiently document and convey the firm's risk reporting requirement. Such requirements include specific measures, data accuracy expectation, element definition, time frame, supervisory expectation, and regulatory reporting requirement. Key elements of effective IT risk management policy are clearly defined standard internal risk reporting to ensure proper IT infrastructure and internal reporting. Sufficient funding is provided to develop IT system for the purpose of internal risk reporting. They compete equally with the proposal that are revenue generating. Assessing IT infrastructure capacity to approve new product. Post implementation review of IT system. Revenues were 6 to 18 months after a check the system meet the risk personal needs. The level of governance for source IT activities is same as if they were done in-house. There are no impediments to implement or access the data due to outsourcing. The existence of effective project management offices to ensure the timelines and deliverables are met, specifically one person in charge of PMO, which seems to result in strong coordination and communication between the project staff. There is a data administrator as well as a data owner. The data owner must ensure sufficiently high level of risk of data accuracy, integrity and availability. This helps to ensure that IT projects are meeting the user needs. The board is able to implement the relevant internal audit to allow periodic review of data maintain process and function. The monitoring could be continuous or specific to a product or a business line. This would allow for quick correction of any weakness detected by the internal audit. So this is about the risk data infrastructure. Now we move to poor or fragmented IT infrastructure. Now we need to understand the factors which could lead to poor or fragmented IT infrastructure at an organization. Now there are 5 factors to consider with regarding to poor or fragmented IT infrastructure. No common understanding of long-term business strategy between business line and IT management. This factor often results in internal competition of funding, thereby not permitting IT infrastructure project to be completed. Management only makes decision based on short-term profits. As a result of this factor, many IT infrastructure projects are sealed back, delayed or eliminated. Significant turnover and important IT roles within the firm. This factor is resulted in delays in competing IT projects. Insufficient data governance and insufficient data management plan within the firm. This factor requires an inconsistency across the business line in how to upgrade system. This is costly if the system ends up being incompatible because of inconsistency. Merger or acquisition activity. This factor results in multiple systems running simultaneously within the recently merged firm. Data aggregation across product and business line becomes a significant challenge. Now we talk about data aggregation best practices. Explain the challenges and best practices of data aggregated of an organization. The existence of several IT systems being operated simultaneously within a firm results in lack of integrated IT system. This in turn requires a significant amount of manual data entry to allow proper aggregation of risk data. Best practice related to data aggregation and organization are explained as follows. To increase efficiency and accuracy and minimize the amount of manual intervention and manual data manipulation by automating risk data aggregation process. Aggregated risk data need to be accurately, timely and comprehensively in order to value. Therefore, there must be standard cutoff times and timelines regarding the production of internal report. Single platform centralization. Database with single identifiers and or consistent naming convention should allow for timely retrieval of multiple records of risk data across the firm. They also permit data segmental while required to produce specific data risk concentrations. Create data warehousing that will take information about process some systems, store in warehousing. The data is then filtered and reorganized so that customized report can be created using specific data from the warehouse. Automated reconciliation will reduce the risk of manual error and incomplete information. For example, off-balance sheet data should not be omitted. Periodic reconciliation of risk and financial data will ensure the accuracy of proper operations of the IT system. For merger and acquisition transaction, ensure that legal IT are integrated into the IT system as soon as possible. When obtaining approval for new IT purchase, involve the appropriate technical staff to ensure that existing can process and aggregate data into new line item. So that was all. This was a bit theoretical topic. I'll talk about a few questions that you can see. So I'll just quickly brief out 3 points here that you need to remember for this topic. The first is lack of integrated IT system is the major challenge related to data aggregation. Many best practices regarding data aggregation exist, like minimizing amount of manual data process using a single platform, centralized databases, creating data warehouses, automated and periodic data reconciliation, and timely integration of legacy IT system. Then we have poor or fragmented IT infrastructure result from lack of common understanding of long-term strategy between business line and IT management. Management thinking only about short-term profit, significant turnover in IT roles, insufficient data governance, merger and acquisition activities. The questions could come would be like, uh, what are the topics that are true regarding RAF? Then who should have the final decision? And which of the following regarding risk appetite in individual business line correct? Key elements of effective IT risk management policy and best practices regarding data integration. I'll quickly talk about the answers here. So the RF represents the firm's core risk strategy. The RF does not necessarily need to amend every time there is a profitable opportunity. Doing so will cause RF to lose its value. RF also focuses on the risk which the firm is unwilling to take. The risk appetite statement would not likely include an examination of compensation of income statement. It would be more likely the balance sheet. Then we have the willingness of CEO to give CRO the final word on many risk decision is the best practice, which has strengthened the importance of risk management function. Then we have individual business lines may collectively use the RAF to drift when market conditions change. Sensitive analysis only examines one variable at a time. More robust tool like stress test and scenario analysis. Each business line appetite allotment according to RF may be amended if another business line encounters an opportunity that requires more capital. The business line management should submit a medium-term plan to senior management and/or board. Post-implementation reviews should be 6 to 18 months after implementation. 24 months or would be too long. Having one person in charge of project management office seems to be result in stronger coordination and communication between project staff. For merger and acquisition transaction, it is the best that legacy IT systems are integrated into chosen IT as soon as possible. Spreadsheets are a form of manual data manipulation because they are not automated. They would not be the best practice. Automated reconciliation should be performed, not manual. One of the key points about internal list report is that they should be produced on timely basis. Therefore, there must be stand-off, cut-off time, and timeline regarding their production. So this was all on the topic. I hope this added something to your current batch. Thank you for listening.